This is McDROID. We're throwing chairs at it. It's from Elefantopia Games. It's a Unity game. You can buy it for about $20 at your local regional currency, but it's 75% off, so you can grab it for $5 until the 19th of Janvier. And what is it? A super frantic arcade tower defense McDROID starts gently, then progressively challenges your trigger finger, not unlike several dominatrixes I've met, and your wits, and your sanity as you multitask, like a robotic spider-doggy-thing. Running, shooting, building base, hurting, healing, harvesting, repairing, planting, upgrading, researching, trying to frying giant snail hammer things with a giant Nikola Tesla on your back. As in, like, you have a Serbian gentleman on your back throwing rocks at these things. Yeah, whatever. We've actually reviewed this before back when it was in beta 13, but it's been released. So it's time it faces the chairquisition. 1 chair means that it's garbage. 2 chairs means that it's meh. 3 chairs means that it's all right. And 4 chairs means that it's amazeballs. We also got a categories of doom mixed with the working shiny scounds, controls, and bleh. So does this game make with the horking, Ben?
All right, brother Quang. Let's see. How does it run on the Kubuntu 1404 LTS 980 powered 4K displayed box of business? Performance is, not that great, even at 1080p. Kind of struggles to hit 60 FERPs with any type of regularity. And at 2160p, aka UHD, it will often drop to, 20, high 20s. Not really, it's playable, but it's kind of with the herky-jerkies. But all I can say is I absolutely do have to ding this a chair for the mix with the working, because if you have an Exclude controller plugged in, which I just in infinite wisdom decided to get rid of my USB hub up front and plug everything into the back, and I was like, well, I'm not unplugging that for this. It will disable some of your keyboard, your E and F buttons for planting strawberries and selecting levels, little things like that. So you kind of got to track down some bits to make that work. But I'll talk more about that in the control section. So I'm going to give this 3 chairs out of the box.
Much the same as Ven on the Fedora 22 powered Intel 6700 Ki7, the GTX 980 with the NVIDIAs and the 4Ks. I was running it at 4K, and yeah, it chugs along. You, on average, get about 30 FPS. I didn't knock it down to 1080, but I do recall that it was not as great back in the beta days. I'm going to ding it a chair, though, because network multiplayer is a wee busted, and for a game that is advertising multiplayer as a feature, that's maybe something you might want to have on lock, Brad, so 3 chairs for that.
Yeah, I didn't run into the issue that Ven did with having the controller plugged in. I had the NVIDIA Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. controller plugged in the whole time, and it didn't mess with it. Now, it may have something to do with the fact that instead of, using the actual keyboard for E and F, I was using the mouse. I don't know. It's Unity. You never know. But yeah, on the FX 8370E with the GTX 970 Strix running on Fedora 23 64-bit, I didn't have any issue, so 4 chairs.
All right, so that's 3 chairs for Mix with the Working. Up next is Shiny and the Farts. Ben, did it fart?
Did it fart? I don't know. You got to really think about how far we've come, not with farts, but graphical fidelity and the amount of games that we currently have on. Shut up. On Linux. When this game was first released, the alpha version, around 2013-ish, it looked amazeballs for a Linux title. Fast forward to 2016, maybe not so much. That's not to say it's fugly by any measure. In fact, the cartoonish, cel-shaded aesthetic looks a bit of all right. Hell, some might even say it holds up. The bright colors and detailed environments are a nice change from the bog-standard hipster pixel tower defense games of late. However, the anti-aliasing is so horrid, I want to call it rubbish, but that would be an insult to rubbish. When it comes to the sounds, the retro soundtrack works for what it is. And, the limited voice acting beep boop business like that, borderline entertaining. They definitely have a sense of humor in this game and about themselves. I respect that about Elefantopia. Playing it at 2160, 4K, UHD, menu text, borked, son. It's all out of whack. And, when they were originally coming up with this game, they were not I was not expecting to have a 28-inch 4K displayed box of business in front of my eye organs. But it's all right. I mean, it works. It looks and it sounds. It's not going to blow you away in 2016. We'll give it 2 chairs, I think, justly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I personally found the voice acting a little bit annoying. Oh, who's your spaceship? Oh, he's a good space. I don't give a shit, man. Shut up. Especially when it like actually makes you sit through this guy speaking before you can actually get to the gameplay. The graphics, like Ven said, are nice and cell shaded.
We already have an episode called shell shaded, so we can't have that.
Okay, that's fine. But either way, not everything is cell shaded though, so that can be a little jarring. It's mostly stuff in the background though. But most of the like actual custom sprites and custom models for this game are cell shaded. Well, the music, I didn't really notice it, so I can't really comment onto whether it was, contributing to the overall experience or not. So overall, really, there's nothing wrong with this game, but it's nothing to write home about either. It's fairly middle of the road, so it gets the middle of the road score of 2 chairs.
Yeah, there's a slight bug with the sprites in that the alpha channel in those sprites that's supposed to, give it a transparent background so you could overlay it on top of anything and not mess with anything else. Yeah, at render time, it's being displayed on the exact same layer as the post-processing. So you get like a really nice shadow effect or a really nice like sun shaft, giggity. And what you're going to see is that shadow or that sun shaft or whatever post-processing effect is in that area. When the sprite comes up, there's going to be a square of transparency just showing you the background. It's kind of jarring. But outside of that, the graphics are good enough, and the cell shading will ensure that it'll hold up for years to come. I'm not complaining about the sounds. We get our share of non-voice acted games when they clearly benefited from it, and, well, this game didn't exactly need it. It's a nice touch. So it gets 3 chairs from me.
All right. One thing I did forget to mention, though, is that there's some issues with texture mapping in this game as well, because oftentimes you can see little bits of wireframe poking through. But that's 2 chairs for Shiny and the sounds. Up next is the control. Then, how did you fare with unplugging your Xbox controller?
No, I didn't have to do that, Brad, because it clearly states QWERTY only and gamepad not supported in the Linux system requirements. So I can't ding it a chair for that. But having to hunt down the plus disable gamepad on launch argument to put into the Steams, to make the damn thing work, it's not a good start, Brad. It really isn't. And more importantly, that will cause your average Arch user to issue an instant refund. And that's just a little free pro tip of L.G.C. cares. This is the second game that Raven's Cry breaks controls if a gamepad is plugged in. It's mind-boggling how that can even be a thing. Yes, Vin, there's a button on the menus that says doesn't work. You actually have to put that command in. That'll be in the notes if you're looking for it. You do have to do some searching for it. That said, the keyboard and gerbil layout, logical. It's fine. It works. Once you get everything going, it's tower defense, so you can't really bash it. I mean, if you manage to fuck up the controls on something like that, you're at a whole new level that we haven't even seen. But I'm gonna give it a solid 3 chairs for what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't try it with any controllers or the Steam controller or anything like that. I just used keyboard and mouse because that's how I know how to play this game. And everything is all nice and logically laid out. My one gripe with it, though, is the camera will fuck you on occasion. And I would have rather preferred that the camera controls were somewhere on the keyboard rather than using right click and spinning around. Because when you're trying to, get a good angle on a bunch of enemies heading towards your turrets and at the same time target specific people, it doesn't really quite work all that well. But beyond that, everything is relatively sanely mapped. So I'll give it 3 chairs.
And for me, well, the first thing, oh yeah, it's McDROID. It's a Unity game, so chances are my Logitech F310 will be recognized because most Unity games do. They see it as a regular old Xbox 360 controller. So I installed it on the Steam box. Nope. The only key that it registered was the start button. And I'm like, okay. So it claims to have full controller support, but it very clearly does not. But then Ven was like, yeah, they say on the store page that the gamepad is not supported solely for the keyboard. Well, fine, I'll install it here. So I did, and I was looking at because the first thing I do whenever I start a game is I go to the options menu, to the controls, and I start rebinding keys. And I'm looking around, I can't rebind controls. Now, thankfully, the dev, seriously, thank you for that. He mirrored WASD into the directional arrow keys on the keyboard, so I could at least move around. And since I have the Rocat Kova Plus mouse, I have these two thumb buttons here. As the front one is E and the backwards one is F. So I could use those for most of the stuff, and it worked. The one button I could never use was the jump button because that is set to the space bar, and I usually use the middle mouse click as the jump. But since I couldn't rebind the keys, well, guess that's not going to happen. 2 chairs.
All right, so that's 2 chairs for controls. And finally, we got our fun segment. Ven, did you enjoy McDROID?
Well, Brad, it's tower defense, and let's be honest with ourselves, gentlemen, that's nothing new. That's not necessarily a bad thing if you consider a tower defense the second coming of the baby Jesus, but at 19.99 wet stinky caches, it's a tough sell. Once the novelty of collecting strawberries and upgrading your Tachikoma wears off, things get repetitive with a quickness, and that's not to say it isn't challenging, since it becomes fuck you hard later on. Full disclosure, one interesting feature is being able to invite your mates to help you sort some of the levels that just fucked you over. But as we found out the other night, that can be a little hit or miss. If you're watching the produced version of that, you might be seeing that. And speaking of that multiplayer, yeah, it's a ghost town. Our online adventure literally, genuinely made up 3/4 of the player base. And when I say 3/4, I mean there were 4 people online, and 3 of us. That was us. So,
well, one of them was the developer, so...
No, right, fair enough, fair enough. Is it boring? No, it's not boring. Does it bring anything new to tower defense? Not really. It's pretty. You could have some fun with it. 75% off. I would say pick it up, maybe play it for a little bit, but don't rely on multiplayer. I mean, that's kind of what I want to say. I mean, if it had a larger community to play with, giggity, he said, it would. I mean, if we all 3 of us playing it, we had an all right time. Of course, we were discussing other things, but we were getting the business done. So it's not busted. It's not great. I'm gonna have to give it 2 chairs with an Astro, and that's the best I can do.
Yeah, I mean, they've certainly upped the difficulty from the last time I played this game, because a couple of levels are like, holy shit, what the fuck, I can't multitask that much. But, I mean, it still doesn't change the fact that I think tower defense games are boring as all hell. I do not find them entertaining in the least, and this game will not change your mind. I mean, I would have given it 1 chair, but I can see what they're doing. I respect that they actually put some time and effort into this game. They actually applied some thought to the game mechanics, and everything is, from like a technical standpoint, all the pieces are there if you are into tower defense. It's really just not my type of game. One thing I did find weird though was I think they're implying that Michael Jackson is Jewish in this. I don't know. You can go to that stage and see for yourself.
And invisible.
But yes, that was the big thing though. Like for network multiplayer, if you're playing the zombie level, the zombies were only showing up for Pedro because he was the host, and we actually got to a point where we could not actually win the level because everyone was dead because we just kept shooting at things blindly and everyone died. So again, they really need some multiplayer fixing on that. But beyond that, it's for a tower defense. It's harmless. 2 chairs.
Yeah, there's very clearly been a lot of work put into this game, and it's a work of love. It's just not my love. It takes a special kind of sauce to get me interested in a tower defense game nowadays. It's a genre that's been done, and it's been done really well. For me, Orcs Must Die is still like right there at the top when it comes to tower defense. And unfortunately, it's not the case with McDROID. McDROID is mediocre. It has a few issues, and it has a few things that it does well, but neither are worthy of bothering your parents with, actual physical mail, as in, nothing to write home about. Remember last week when I said that Bound by Flame was the kind of mediocre that I enjoyed? McDROID is the opposite kind. 2 chairs.
Yes, and much like a sore Mr. Terry Welsh, McDROID gets 2 chairs on the fun and 2 chairs for the final score. Hi, Terry, how's it going? Yeah, it sucks to get 2 chairs when your game doesn't really appeal to the people reviewing it. It's all right. Final thoughts?
Again, I just wish the multiplayer was. I would feel justified in saying even at 75% off, which it currently is at $4.99. Pick it up. The only way I could suggest doing that is if you buy the 4-pack for your friends, because they're going to be the only ones playing it. Single player, it just gets boring and just repetitive. I want to give them a little extra love because they actually use the word batshit crazy on their description in the store. Good on you, Doves. You're kind of awesome for doing that. And it was made, what predates Steam, predates Desura, and then they were, experimenting with the Linux support. And we kind of wish it worked better because we did help them, with getting this up and running. That's all I got. P, baby?
Yeah, that's the thing. With all the time that at least you and I both spent playing around with the betas and the alphas and everything and giving the guys at Elefantopia some, feedback and bugs and whatever else we could find. It sucks. It sucks that it only gets 2 chairs and it's not really fun, as it were. But hey, $5 if you like tower defense. This is your type of thing.
Yeah, definitely give it a shot if you're into tower defense. I really agree with Ben 100%. Some actual solid multiplayer gaming could have saved this, but unfortunately it wasn't quite up to snuff.